We all highly appreciate such an audience this morning. So today I'll be presenting a project that I did for my qualitative research methods class, which is titled "You're Not Working Hard Enough, You're Not Trying Hard Enough," which is an analysis of privacy management and coping and resilience among young adults experiencing food insecurity. So just to give us a little background, why did this project come to be? What's the importance of this project? So for the last 5 years, I've worked with Inspired Vision Compassion Center, a very small nonprofit in the state of Texas. And for the last 5 years, I've seen firsthand about 3 million families that have come through for groceries, clothing, bedding, supplies, things that are your basic human necessities, but they don't have access to these things. And over the last 5 years, I've thought, what can I do to help with this? What are some of the next steps that I can do with the privilege that I've been granted to help others? So I've had that personal firsthand experience of seeing these individuals. What do I do as a researcher now? And so that's what kind of inspired this project, is what are my next steps as a researcher to help people? And this is also a very large problem in the US. About 87 million Americans, according to Feeding America, struggle with food insecurity to some varying degree, either low food insecurity or very high food insecurity. And the number's only growing due to the economy. So that's kind of why this project started, is there's a need, I'm seeing it firsthand. As an individual who has the privilege of having an education, what do I do with my voice now? And so the ways that I conceptualize this and I think about it are with communication, privacy management, and the regulation risk model. And so some of the things to think about are the feelings of shame, the feeling of stigmatization when it comes to disclosing or not disclosing. Furthermore, whenever individuals have some sort of negative self-disclosure, they might feel like they're losing some autonomy. They're losing some space. They're sharing information that could potentially be harmful to them because they feel that shame and guilt of sharing that I can't afford the basic necessity of food. Furthermore, whenever we think about these conversations, we think about the vulnerability of the individuals that are able to share this information and how that vulnerability matters more than the content that they're sharing. Then individuals weigh that self-disclosure thinking, what are the consequences of sharing this? If I share this, what am I gonna gain? What am I gonna lose? What's gonna happen? And ultimately, research shows us that people self-disclose for 3 reasons. Either for catharsis, I can't handle this on my own anymore, I need to share this. Someone has the right to the information, so hey, my child or my husband, spouse, wife, whatever, has the right to know the situation that's happening. And then lastly, someone directly asks them about the situation, in which case they feel like they need to respond. And then with coping and resilience, the way it's conceptualized in this piece is thinking about the reframing or the redeeming of an experience. Thinking, how do I grow past this? How do I get support? How do I manage the situation that can negatively impact my life? And so furthermore, there are some instances in which I feel burdensome because I need that social support. Then the last piece of this is emerging adulthood. So with emerging adulthood, it's this time period of uncertainty through ages 18 through 29 of, I don't know what it means to be an adult. I don't know what my responsibilities are. And on top of that, I don't have food. I don't know how to make ends meet. And this is a time where I'm supposed to be independent, but I don't know how. And so we get these competing tensions of, I need to be independent, I'm an adult, but at the same time, I don't have a basic human need. What do I do now? Which lead us to our research questions. First, how do individuals experiencing food insecurity reveal their struggles to others? Second, how do young adults experiencing food insecurity cope with their situation or become resilient? And lastly, how do emerging adults describe their experience in food insecurity? So for the methods, this was a very small group of people that I interviewed. I did 10 semi-structured interviews with young adults ranging from 18 to 29 to get that emerging adulthood population. Individuals self-define it as experiencing food insecurity. Some of the measures that exist via the USDA are very specific, and it's like, have you had food 3 days a week, 4 days a week? And I felt as a researcher, I needed to learn about their experience with this. So it was about their definition and how they felt about the situation. Lastly, data were analyzed using Tracy's iterative approach with primary and secondary coding. And from this, I gather 3 themes. The first one, secrecy and judgment. The big thing is, secrecy is a part of adulthood. To be an adult is to keep secrets, to manage information, and to not disclose it to others. To be an adult is to fix things. I'm an adult, I should figure out how to fix this on my own. And with secrecy, they fear judgment from family, friends, and strangers. And so 3 of the examples I chose to highlight here. The first one, the participant shared, I didn't tell anyone. That's also a part of being an adult. And so they shared that they experienced food insecurity as a child, but they never realized it because her mother never told her. It was always a secret. I don't tell you what we're experiencing. So when she went through that experience again, she was like, whoa, I've seen this before. I understand the situation, but then also kept it to herself and didn't tell her children because that's a part of the adulthood portion. Then our second participant talks about when receiving Medicaid or food stamps or any type of governmental assistance, they're scared of going in because people are gonna say, you're not working hard enough, you're not trying hard enough, instead of saying, do you need help? And so here we see, even though there are governmental agencies that are meant to aid in this situation, people still fear being judged and stigmatized by individuals who are meant to help them through this. And then lastly, this participant shared, if I can't provide food for my children, how am I meant to provide an education, entertainment, travel, other things that make a well-rounded human? And kind of shared this experience of, people are gonna judge me because I can't provide my child with food. They're gonna think, how am I a good mother? How am I educating my children as well? Then we get a little into negative emotions and negative self-disclosure. So all 10 participants expressed feelings of shame, guilt, anxiety, and depression sometime during their experience with food insecurity. Some of these feelings were only expressed when they needed help. So when going up to someone and being like, hey, I'm experiencing this right now, I feel really anxious, I feel really depressed, I kind of don't know what to do. And so that was kind of like that catharsis of, I'm finally sharing this experience and I feel like that weight off my chest. And so to kind of highlight this, these 2 quotes, I don't want to feel like I'm a burden to someone else or feel like I needed someone else to help us. And so this kind of shows where I have that negative emotion of asking for help and I'm kind of weary about doing that, but I know that I need it, so I'm still gonna do it. And then second, it made me feel really bad. It made me feel really sad because, it was really hard for me and it was a lot. I was feeling really sad in the beginning. It's kind of embarrassing, but I guess that because I have kids, I can overcome the embarrassment and be like, no, I actually really do need it. And so here we see the support of having a family where there's an extension of the food insecurity. It's not just me. There are other people depending on me, therefore I am gonna ask for help. And then our last theme are positive emotions and disclosure. So after disclosure of precarious situations, participants felt gratitude for those that were able to help them. And overcoming food insecurity inspired change and action in them. This first quote, to kind of summarize, one of my participants is an immigrant from Lebanon. And she shared that in Lebanon, when she experienced food insecurity, there was no one there to help her. There wasn't a food pantry, there wasn't a governmental agency, there was nothing that was really set in place to help her. And she shares the gratitude that she feels with being in America now, where there are governmental agencies, there are food pantries, there are food banks, there are people that have set things in place to help her out. And so express this amazing gratitude of, there are organizations that are meant to help me. And then lastly, this is an extreme example, but there were 4 participants that felt a similar sentiment, where an individual experienced food insecurity when they were 18, 19, 20, and then in their late 20s started a food bank because they were like, this is an experience that I went through. It was difficult for me. It was difficult for my siblings. It was difficult for my parents. How do I help others from this now? And 4 total participants talked about, I volunteer now. I go out to the food bank, I hand out food, I give my time, I donate money, I donate resources, because they've been through this experience, they know what it's like, so they want to help others out. So what does this all mean? Tied together, what are the implications of what we're talking about? So the first big one is different paths of disclosure. The first one is, I reveal to a close friend, I reveal to a family member. That feels safe. I feel like they won't judge me as much or at all, but this is a safe option. The second one is, I'm gonna keep this a secret. I'm scared of people judging me. I'm scared of the stigmas that exist surrounding the situation. So I'm just not going to disclose this information. And then the one that I thought was super interesting was revealing to strangers. Some people felt more comfortable going to a stranger than their own spouse because that stranger is meant to help them. That stranger knows what things are set into place to help them. Then the revelation risk model manifests itself as individuals are weighing out the possibilities of their non-disclosure. They're weighing out, well, if I tell my mom, what does that mean for our relationship? How is my mom gonna view me? If I go to a governmental agency and I tell this complete stranger, well, I have nothing to lose. I don't really know them. We really don't have a relationship. There's nothing to be impacted there. Then when we think about resilience, resilience was talked about as moving past the situation and having some sense of growth. It was about, I am moving past this, I've grown from the situation. Now this is what I'm doing in order to show that I've grown and I've coped with the situation. 1/3 of the participants mentioned volunteering as an act of resilience and moving past their situation. So again, there is that piece of, I've gone through this experience, let me help others that are experiencing the same thing. And lastly, being an emerging adult is overcoming hardship. So there was a sense of experiencing food insecurity is part of my experience as an adult because I need to learn how to overcome this. Then we think, okay, Sophia, what's next? Where do we go from this? How do you keep researching the same thing? Here's our answer. So the next step, I'm currently working on my thesis looking at working adults who still experience food insecurity, but they quite don't make enough money because we think, oh, you work, you must have enough money to make ends meet, and that's not always the case. And so that's one of the next steps. Another thing I've been thinking about is recently unemployed individuals, people who have been food secure for 20 years, but all of a sudden you're laid off and you're like, I don't know what to do. And so that's one of the things that in the future I would like to research. Thank you so much. I welcome any questions and comments.